The clock is louder than your heartbeat. 2 emails glow, accept the offer, or stay where it's safe. You tell yourself more thinking equals more control, but the room shrinks with every loop. Each new angle feels like a seatbelt, each minute subtracts a door you could still walk through. Kierkegaard called it the dizziness of freedom, when possibility swells so wide you clutch thought like a railing. Thought can steady, but thought without action becomes a velvet noose. Safety masquerades as wisdom, delay dresses as diligence. The ego wants guarantees, the self wants aliveness. Which master are you bowing to? Look at the cursor blinking like a metronome for regret. You reread the contract, text 3 friends, open a pros and cons list that multiplies like hydra heads. Control promises certainty, courage promises movement. One keeps you unhurt and empty, the other exposes you and makes you real. Choose the cost. Here is the quiet assassin, thinking that never risks skin. 1,000 near decisions create a life that almost happened. Trade perfection for presence, trade prediction for commitment. Put your name on one path before the hallway goes dark. 2 doors ahead. Between them, a strip of floor that quietly retracts, inch by inch, like a bridge being reeled back to the castle. The longer you analyze, the less walkway remains. You zoom in on details, hunting for certainty, while the horizon slides away. Every pro and con you add feels like armor, yet the noise in your head grows, and your feet, the only honest instruments, stand motionless. Be honest, are you careful, or are you hiding? Choosing is exposure. It declares a loyalty, and a self. If you leap and fail, you own it. If you hesitate and miss, you can blame timing, the market, the algorithm. Pride prefers untested greatness to humble beginnings. Humility steps forward, willing to be small and real. Delay keeps you immaculate in theory. Decision invites the mess that makes you human. Freedom terrifies because it places the pen in your hand, certainty seduces because it promises a script. Overthinking is counterfeit currency you spend to buy perfect outcomes with perfect information. But perfect never arrives, it reschedules. You whisper, I'm not ready, meaning, I refuse to be seen unfinished. Readiness is not a feeling, it is a decision to begin and iterate. The world tallies choices made, not the elegant memos you wrote to justify waiting. So test your motive, do you seek truth, or anesthesia? Will you trade a pristine? Imagine waking inside a labyrinth. Walls higher than hope. Corridors that shift when you blink. Echoes asking, what if? You mark the floor with plans, arrows, contingencies. The more precise your route becomes, the more the maze births new turns, like a hydra fed by thought. Intelligence bends into architecture. Your brilliance mortars the prison. You try to think your way out, and thought adds another hallway to consider. Ariadne appears, not with a map, but with a thread. She doesn't promise omniscience. She offers devotion. Escape isn't knowing every turn. It's refusing to drop what holds you. The thread is a value, not an outcome. Meaning over comfort. Direction over perfection. The Minotaur isn't fear alone. It is the bargain of safety without becoming. Hold the thread and move. Let the monster learn your name and walk. In modern life the labyrinth wears a screen. 47 tabs open. A blinking cursor. A message composed and saved, never sent. You research mentors you won't email, apartments you won't tour, jobs you won't claim. Each pause feels prudent, and the walls grow 2 inches. Your thread is one principle you refuse to drop. I move toward what is honest, useful, and alive. Not a guarantee, an orientation that keeps your feet from freezing. Hold the thread through embarrassment, praise, and silence. Thought can guide or trap. Value can be a compass or a slogan. When you clutch outcomes, the maze rearranges. Reflection clarifies. Rumination multiplies. One examines the scene, the other circles the same corner until grooves form. Your brain simulates outcomes to cut uncertainty, a useful rehearsal when kept short. But high intolerance of uncertainty floods the stage with rehearsals and cancels the play. You scan for missing data, then for missing certainty, then for the feeling of safety you demand before you move. That feeling doesn't come. The circles tighten. The prefrontal cortex prefers control. The limbic system prefers safety. Analysis whispers, if we understand everything, nothing can hurt us. Postponement meanwhile wraps you in immediate calm, the nervous system's brief discount on dread. Control versus surrender. Certainty versus freedom. You stall to feel composed. Yet composure without commitment is decorative. The moment asks for motion. You offer models. The map grows ornate while the feet refuse to step. Maximizing hunts for the best of all possible worlds. Satisficing claims the good enough world you can inhabit now. Prevention focus avoids errors. Promotion focus pursues growth. Overthinking swears allegiance to prevention and maximizing, promising painless perfection. Example, you draft a text, rehearse 15 ways it could be misunderstood, and reread it until the evening thins out. The door for warmth doesn't slam. It expires. Death not by sword, but by silence. That is the bargain, a short-term anti-anxiety ritual that evolves into a long-term regret machine. You postpone and are soothed. The brain records relief and repeats the loop. One more article. 10 more minutes. Your shoulders drop as that tiny hit of control lands. It feels like competence, like you've nudged the world into place. Micro-relief masquerades as momentum. The tab refreshes. The pulse settles. You call it due diligence, but really you're sipping sedation. Busyness dresses like bravery. You move, but only in place, like running on a painted treadmill. Scenery of effort, no change of address. Lists lengthen, spreadsheets blossom, a calendar crammed with preparation. Meanwhile, the map waits for a step. You confuse the feeling of certainty with the fact of progress. You measure hours, not outcomes. The mind bargains, if I think perfectly, I will never feel pain. But the fee for painlessness is a life unlived. Certainty versus aliveness. Comfort versus meaning. The mask of intelligence lets you hide in plain sight, praised for caution while you avoid intimacy with your own stakes. Research is infinite because risk is finite. The more you expand the first, the more you postpone the second. You collect forecasts to dodge the weather of experience. You don't need more data. You need more skin in the game. Put a deposit down. Send the message before you beautify it into silence. Choose a deadline that can embarrass you and let it breathe down your neck. Trade prediction for commitment. Numbness for nerve. Let your feet teach your mind what it couldn't calculate. Because when delay becomes your default, each pause votes on who you are. And the votes are adding up, quietly rewriting you. The mask hardens nightly. Identity is built from choices repeated. Delay is also a vote. At first, I'm cautious. Then, I can't decide. Finally, I'm the kind of person who never finishes. Prudence decays into paralysis so slowly it feels like maturity. Refinement becomes drift. Every almost choice trains your nervous system to prefer potential over presence, safety over aliveness, the dream over the lived page. Cognitive dissonance arrives wearing your voice. To avoid feeling irresponsible, you rename avoidance as wisdom and perfectionism as standards. Ego wants admiration, self wants alignment. Reputation craves composure, reality wants commitment. The persona gleams while the backstage self starves. Control promises invulnerability if you wait. Courage whispers you find yourself only while moving. You polish the story, stall the step, and teach your brain that stalling is safety. Case vignette, you spend months perfecting your portfolio without sending it. The typography sings. Screenshots hang like altar pieces. Craft grows, courage shrinks. Recruiters never see it. You tell yourself you're building leverage, when you're building a museum of almost. One unsent email becomes 5, becomes a season. Skill sharpens, opportunity thins. You become a curator of drafts instead of a maker of doors. Here is the mirror, each pause writes biography. Votes accrue until they. You don't need blind faith. You need tested courage. Trade the dramatic leap for micro leaps with known risks and honest stakes, the email sent, the deposit placed, the first class attended. Choose a stake you can survive and a deadline that can blush you. Let the thread of your values pull harder than the noise of your nerves. Clarity follows commitment, not the other way around. Shift from either or to now next. Pilot the decision for 30 days, then review with data. Reversible choices get speed. Irreversible choices get deliberation, and both get a date. Example, launch the newsletter weekly for a month, measure replies, and decide to continue or pivot. Accept the trial role at lower pay with a checkpoint. Stop fantasizing and schedule a reckoning. Anchor to values over applause. I choose the path that grows honesty, service, and skill, even if nobody claps yet. Outcomes fluctuate, orientation steadies. Fear argues for guarantees. Freedom invites experiments. Perfection promises a painless debut. Practice guarantees a living craft. Make a small promise in public, keep it in private, and let repetition audition you into bolder arenas. One more move, translate meaning into mechanics. Name the next 3 visible steps, and do the first before your brain bargains. Let the body move, then let the mind interpret. This is not recklessness. It's responsibility. Not every door slams, some dim into wallpaper. Deadlines become next year, then whenever. People stop waiting without saying goodbye. The city you meant to try keeps shining online while the suitcase stays under the bed. You call it timing, it's drift. Short-term relief feels merciful, but it subtracts futures quietly, like interest skimmed at night. Aya keeps revising her film application. New log line, cleaner cuts, brighter color grade. She waits for the perfect reel, then presses submit. The grant has dissolved. The confirmation email arrives like applause in an empty theater. Tactical victory, strategic loss. Her relief lasted an evening, her chance, a season. She optimized the frame while the window disappeared. You pay avoidance in currencies you learn to recognize too late, missed timing, thin confidence, a smaller world. Every delay teaches your nervous system you can't trust your feet, only your fantasies. Potential keeps you popular with yourself, history stays blank. Safety wasn't free, it charged interest in aliveness. The bank of maybe pays in souvenirs, screenshots, drafts, saved links, tokens from trips never taken. So write the ledger. Name the doors that faded while you researched the hinges. Count the costs without drama, the person you didn't call, the class you didn't attend, the move you rehearsed but never booked. Let the sting be exact, then convert it to fuel. If the invoices are real, begin before the mind starts bargaining. Each morning, run a thread ritual, name one value, one fear, one action. Write them in one line. Then act within 10 minutes, before analysis recruits excuses. Value names direction, fear names the dragon, action swings the door. Order versus chaos. This is not mood dependent, it's mechanical courage on a schedule. Time box decisions so thinking serves movement. Use the 70% rule, when you have roughly 70% of the information, commit. Limit to 3 options. Run a 5-minute pre-mortem, what could break, and what will you do when it does? Prevention meets promotion, control meets curiosity, then press send. The clock is your ally, not your judge. Install commitments outside yourself. Publish dates. Set decision deadlines you cannot quietly move. Send an accountability text, holding me to this by 6 p.m. Put money down where words have been. Body before brain, take one physical step, send, call, calendar, buy the ticket, and let you leave the labyrinth not by mapping every wall, but by refusing to drop the thread. You step, and the maze steps back. The mind still tosses dice, what if, but your feet answer. Direction beats perfection. You trade omniscience for fidelity, control for courage, and the ground rewards movement with new ground. Step again, less afraid. Anxiety still visits, but meaning has a chair at the table. You stop auditioning for strangers and start honoring the contract you signed with your values. External validation can applaud or boo, but internal fidelity keeps score. Speed bows to wisdom, move fast on the reversible, slow on the irreversible, and accept that learning arrives mid-stride. You choose, learn, adjust, alive to feedback, less available to shame. Errors become tuition, detours become maps you could not have drawn before you walked them. Kierkegaard's warning loses its sting and turns into a compass: do not worship clarity. Pursue truth through committed action. Faith is not certainty, it is the courage to act while uncertainty breathes beside you. You carry the thread in your pocket, not as a prophecy, but as a practice. The mind may whisper what if, but the body answers now. You will choose, learn, and choose again. When two doors appear, you won't wait for silence. You'll feel for the thread, hear its pull, and walk, not later, not perfect, but present today.